to start things off. Welcome to 2024, by the way.
We're here. It's a brand new year. We're starting a clean slate. I'm going to really expand my horizons when it comes to comic books and what I read. So I'm here to talk about, an issue of Batman. I'm trying out this Batman title I've heard so much about.
Okay.
I'm jumping on with issue 140 or issue 905 for you legacy numbering freaks out there. And this is part of the current story being written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Jorge Jimenez, colors by Tomeu, Morey, and letters obviously by Clayton Cowles, since it's a comic book coming out by one of the big two writers, so big two publishers.
Yeah.
And I'll admit, I'll come right out and say it. Apologies to Danny up front. I'm not really liking Zdarsky's Batman. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It is a comic book that features Batman, and often he is punching people in the face, and that's always going to be something I enjoy. So that's not a complaint about, the overall comic itself. It's just, I feel like ever since Zdarsky took over, there's been a lot of references or callbacks to Grant Morrison's Batman run, which obviously I'm a huge fan of. Anyone that's listened to the Patreon series A Better Batmobile knows that is a Batman run that's near and dear to my heart. So at first I was really encouraged by the fact Zdarsky was referencing the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh, which is a huge part of Morrison's Batman, this sort of like backup personality that Bruce Wayne invented in case he ever failed. Batman would have this like backup, version of Batman without Bruce Wayne, and Zdarsky kind of took that concept and has kind of run with it for the past like couple story arcs here. And something about it though isn't clicking for me. And again, I don't think it's not a huge criticism because I think it is interesting, but it doesn't feel like the same. What I liked about Morrison's run doesn't seem to be reflected here. And I remember when I always say Zach instead of Scott Snyder took over Batman for New 52. That's right after Morrison's run. And one of the co-hosts on the much missed Wait What podcast made a comparison that if Morrison was writing a prog rock album, the Scott Snyder Batman was like the pop punk version of that. And I feel like that's kind of similar here, where it's like if Morrison was doing a David Lynch film, Zdarsky's doing a Christopher Nolan film. And it's like, all right, it's high concept. There's a lot of action. There's things I like about it, but something's just not clicking for me. It doesn't seem to be as engaging to me as the Morrison stuff. So, anyway, this issue feels like kind of a culmination of some of the issues I've had with the series, which is why I want to talk about it. You have Batman fighting against Zur-En-Arrh, this other backup Batman who's come back, and apparently everyone knows about it now because all the Robins and everyone else is like referencing this Zur, as they call it. And it almost just feels like another Batman rather than a alternate personality backup, kind of like as Morrison wrote it. And the thing is, Zdarsky also did a whole like multiverse portion of the story a couple arcs ago. So it's like, don't just one Batman of Zur-En-Arrh, there's a whole multiverse worth of them. And in this issue, Batman is fighting the Joker at the same time fighting against versions of himself. And again, all of that is really interesting. Like, I love the multiverse. I love Batman of Zur-En-Arrh. I love the sort of concept. There's a lot of fan service of seeing Batman beat up other versions of Batman. Like, what's better than that? But somehow it's just
George Clooney just getting his ass kicked by the comic book Batman.
Yeah. And I think part of it does rub me as sort of fan service as a point, because there's a moment where you have the Batman that's basically the Michael Keaton Batman from the Tim Burton film, as Zur-En-Arrh with like the orange with the red and purple, costume gimmick. And Batman makes some like joke as he's beating him up, so he makes some joke about, it's like, at least I can turn my head in my costume, stuff like that. So it's like, it's fun, but it's also not really like clicking for me in a way. I don't know.
Sure. It's like a little too meta for a comic book, which is ridiculous to say out loud that I even spoke those words.
Yeah.
But I understand what you're saying, where it's like a little bit too on the head when it comes to like just referencing shit about Batman, right? It's kind of, I don't know. Maybe is that kind of what you're getting at?
I think kind of, yeah. It's like, it is high concept in a way, but I think Morrison, again, I don't think Morrison is a subtle writer at all, but in their run, there was a sense of like, there's some deeper things you can dig out. And this is like almost all surface. You know what I mean? There's not this sort of like deeper analysis I could run of this stuff. I mean, overall, I do, again, it's all stuff I like. So I'm enjoying this series kind of just as a Batman fan, but it's not like clicking for me the way that some recent Batman runs have, even after Morrison.
Gotcha.
The one positive I will say is that Jorge Jimenez is one of my favorite current Batman artists. I think he's fantastic. So the books so far have looked great issue to issue, because I think he's a great artist, and the way he's able to kind of capture the different artistic styles, I'm always a sucker for that. So when you have the Batman of Zur and R, that's basically from Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, it looks like it was drawn by Frank Miller, like stylistic stuff like that. I always am a sucker for. So
yeah,
it is kind of frustrating. It's a Batman comic that I think is good. There's a lot of things I like about it, but somehow it's not clicking for me in the way that I was hoping it would. So I'm wondering if the next story arc, because it feels like this issue sets up like a sort of like end piece for what Zdarsky started with, the whole like fail-safe storyline. It's kind of like tying up some loose ends. So either like he's like, wrapping this run up, or he's going to shift to another story arc. I don't know. I'm still going to obviously buy Batman comics. I'm not giving up. So.
Right. This isn't finally pushing you off Batman comics, right?
No.
Okay.
No. Again, it's still good, but it's not clicking for me in some ways.
Gotcha.